Volume 10, Number 3. We're very happy to be in our 10th year. And I want to introduce our other board members, and if you can just stand as I call your name. Roberta Bearden, Nancy Maya, Linda Prather, Jim Schumann, and Dorla Schumann. Twin Soul, a Tanka trio. April adorns my garden in misty dreams. All but you, forgotten one, have donned their fragrant springtime robes. Blissful blossoms applaud their blushing hues. Left behind, you eye childhood companions as they take life's next step. By bitter fate, we too shall never bloom. So I know your pain when you appear to nod your leaves to my sighs. Bill Latimer will read his poem, Finding a Poem.
Finding a poem. At times, poems jump out from the bushes and appear and vanish like Nessie in a cold lake. Poems ride waves of sound like distant train whistles, owl wings that you hear in the darkness, see invisible things, hear silence. There are times when poems are in you, but you fear letting them escape. These are the thoughts that make you tremble, losses that you cannot bear. To write or speak of these things leaves you in danger of recalling what you hope to forget. Write about what jumps out at you. Write about invisible things or silence. Write about what you notice that isn't worth noticing. Write about pain if you did.
Nancy Maya will read 2 of her poems.
I'm Nancy Maya. I live in Patterson, which is southwest of us here, right under the foothills. And I'm trying to keep track of where everybody has come from for this reading today, because I also help put out the Quill, which is Poets of the San Joaquin little monthly newsletter. And I want to write this up. We have people here from a lot of different places today. My first poem is entitled The Moon on Shiloh Road. As I drive home alone, south on Shiloh Road, one dark summer night, an orange moon rises above the east horizon, over the eucalyptus grove. The full moon, round and rosy, like a ripe Alberta peach. Words flood into my mind, poignant phrases full of meaning, flavorful and flowing, forming a poem for the ages. I pull into my driveway, grab a pen, the words are gone. My next poem is entitled The Summer I Was 15. No air conditioning, no fans, a swamp cooler sitting on a wooden chair in a 3-room house next to the stockyards in the flat, stubbled fields of Las Banas. We sit at the kitchen table in the hot, humid valley summer. I play 5-hour games of canasta with my flamboyant red-headed sister. Later, bucked off the back of a neighbor's nervous horse, I spend the rest of the summer, both arms in plaster casts.
Lives of poets are not easy. Lynn Hanson will read her 2 poems.
Both hands in a cast. You can't really do much, can you? 330 Needham Avenue, circa 1955. Parked like a tethered flying saucer or windswept iceberg grounded in an asphalt sea, The structure grins its glass towards sunset, floats its crew-cut roof above the window on Modesto. Once, a pink ice cream cone sign hung in the window of this boogie-themed building, shouting "Open" in neon red. Inside, on the checkerboard floor, formica chrome tables and crimson chairs clustered. Teens gathered here on hot August nights. Soda jerks and candy-striped caps blended milkshakes, dished up strawberry, chocolate, vanilla into double or triple ice cream cones or banana splits, served frosty glasses of cherry Coke. If you sat in the window seat in the 50s, you could see and be seen by cruisers. For a nickel, a Seaberg jukebox would play Love Me Tender or Rock Around the Clock. This was the hangout where ponytails shared Sundays with greasers. Teens had a place to chill. I, however, was hanging out at Bud's Frosty in Escalon. Yeah, we were doing our same thing, but we didn't have all that fancy furniture. Okay. Path of the Padres, 1807 through 1834. Father Felipe Aurora de la Cuesta, directing dawn raids of Yokuts villages, captures men, women, and children, and leads them on a long, hot, often steep journey, the path of the Padres. Tethered with rawhide, one thumb to another's, a riata of Yokuts stumble single file along the narrow trail. Crisscrossing Arroyo de los Baños, they snake past the familiar willows, shrubs of mule fat, old groves of sycamore where deer, wild boar, and quail thrive. Grassy ancient village sides resplendent with wild berries, fields of blue lupin, rhodea, and the orange fire of poppies. Images the Yokuts must carry as memory. The beginning and end of the human rope are tied to horses ridden by Mexican soldiers who force march and drag their captives away from valley villages to San Juan Bautista for salvation, for baptism, for forced labor. Most die. When those who escape or survive mission life retrace the path of their memory, they find the villages have vanished, their culture lost. They stand weeping.
We're happy to have Norma Gragoot here from Sacramento.
And Norma is very happy to be here in Modesto. It's back in Modesto. I grew up here, and then by some kind of strange serendipity, I ended up teaching school here for 50 years in the 70s and 80s. Farmhouse music. I might add that I grew up here a long time ago. Farmhouse music. No real kind of music for me at Granddad's house. No real music through long days on the farm. Granddad sang Darling Nella Gray, Old Black Joe, or a ballad about Sir Raymond, the tricky fox. Grandma's one song, very tragic, told about an ocean shipwreck. Her voice was thin and flat and old. No piano music. No music from a Zenith radio. Frying chops and potatoes sizzled and spattered. Boiling kettle hummed and bubbled. After supper, murmured stories of the farm. Close calls. Chicken hawks. Clever coyotes. At night, the wooden floors cooled and creaked. The iron stove crackled and snapped. Almost like music for me, soothing music. 9th Street that was. Last month, 9th Street looked like any other, not the edge of the world we grade school explorers avoided in the 30s. Although our forays took us through strange Modesto alleys or trespassing in spooky buildings, we never walked down 9th. Carefree Ventures took us shopping in dime stores on 10th and into movies there. But just around the corner, SP trains clattered and banged on the west side of 9th, and probably hobos hung around the freight platform. Across the street, a glimpse of a mysterious Orient through the screen door and foggy windows of the Owl restaurant. My father took us there once. The floors were splitter planks, jasmine iced tea in a sweaty green metal drum, pungent food odors, exotic Chinese calendars in pidgin English. Last month, 9th Street seemed so ordinary. As we were driving down J, and I pointed out to Gail and Bill that 10th Street was the main street, and I looked up at the buildings, and one of them still has the crest name.
And now, Roberta Bearden will read 2 poems by Nancy Haskett, who is out of town. So next time, hopefully, she'll be here.
This is entitled A Wilder Time. Close to 40 years ago, when I was new to Modesto, this valley was a wilder place. A time when abundance of crickets would find their way into the house, chirp behind our sofa, creating summer ambiance in the family room. When frogs managed somehow to leave the canal, hop down sidewalks into our yards, nestle like large green mushrooms in the flower beds. Small field mice would gnaw under the door, dart unexpectedly into a closet, brazenly courageous in bright daylight. And perhaps the most remarkable to me, a lone coyote once loped through a nearby orchard, easily mistaken for a dog by those who might glance quickly, running eastward, comfortable in his surroundings, posing no threat. And I, who had so recently grown accustomed to all of this wildlife, accepted him as simply part of the ordinary, never realizing he would be the first and last of his kind I would ever see. This is a haiku, and I will be reading them twice. Ripened apricots hang like golden ornaments, Christmas in July. Ripened apricots hang like golden ornaments, Christmas in July. Just after midnight, lawn sprinklers, cool August night, sounds like summer rain. Just after midnight, lawn sprinklers, cool August night, sounds like summer rain. After the heat wave, cool air blows in through windows, a fever broken. After the heat wave, cool air blows in through windows, a fever broken.
Deborah Wensler will read her 2 poems.
I didn't come as far as Ms. Ford, but I'm from Carmel. And so I used to frequent Fresno a lot, visiting family. Daddy Longlegs. I remember being 5, a prisoner of the back seat, crisscrossing the Golden State to visit family in the valley. Thin white sheets of cloud hung like summer laundry from the sky, and hard brown tortoiseshell hills dozed silently as my siblings in the late afternoon sun. Gazing out at telephone poles, watching their delicate electric threads stitch each small town to the next, my imagination and I hungered for something those tantalizing roadside billboards couldn't offer. I discovered him in a field of broccoli and named him Daddy Longlegs, my superhero in green pants, youngest son of the man in the moon. More than just a trick of the eye, he was a prisoner in his own right. He always stayed just outside my window as we whizzed across endless croplands, sprinting through furrowed acres of celery, strawberries, lettuce, and chard, his emerald legs churning like blades on a windmill. I asked my wise and favorite uncle, a conductor for the Santa Fe line, if he knew about Daddy Longlegs, but he just winked and smiled, telling me only special people had ever seen him. My uncle's been gone for years now, but I think of him fondly and often, while cultivating my imagination like a field of precious fruit, watching for Daddy Longlegs outside my window. Second poem is called Heartland. And this actually, I think, was written while traveling down 33. I don't have my highways all correct, but I think it was 33. Heartland. Along a narrow, well-traveled highway, we pass dry corpses of 100 sycamores enrobed with black crows. Here, there is little need for fiction. Life's beautiful, terrible truths are etched on every face and field. 100-year-old farmhouses, all peeling paint and patched roofs, lean alongside pampered ranches with names like Rising Sun Farms and Bluebelly Acres. Beside hopeful rows of pistachios newly planted and peaches eager for summer sun, lie the skeletal remains of rotting chicken sheds, awaiting a bulldozer's unforgiving blade. An unsuspecting heron fishes for his supper in the creek bed, while a watchful coyote drinks from the bank and waits. The familiar scents of manure and approaching rain mingle in the evening air. Put your ear to the earth and hear the song of sweet potatoes growing, their small brick-red bodies humming in a lone.
Louise Cantrell.
When you went away, fog made a steamy lake that swallowed the words I tried to say, I meant to say, to call you back. I watched the red of your taillights until they were no more, disappearing into night when you went away.
That's a short poem, but very delightful one. I like that. It moves me every time I hear it or read it. Very good. And Carol Eve, are you ready?
I came all the way from Alaska.
Those sled dogs, you know.
Page 11?
Thank you. Yeah, page 11. We did have car trouble, so sorry about that. Early summer foothills. What a strange and quiet road. Clearly it was used enough, for it showed the earthen wheel paths, evidence of years of wear by wagons, buggies, horses, maybe sometimes cattle. 2 parallel paths separated by summer grass, running side by side, wandering over rise, around sheltering oaks, through shallow dips and gullies. Yet all morning she'd seen not a soul, except for the patient buzzards that wandered overhead, the songbirds, preoccupied with feeding hidden nestfuls of wobbling, wide-open beaks. More people should take this road, she thought. It was lovely. To her left, above the rolling valley floor, against azure heavens, rocky crags thrust up in ragged peaks, ribboned with muted lavender and turquoise streamers of layered stone. Its slanted surface ribbed with sharp gullies where rain eroded rivulets down its rugged face. Yet all 3 peaks were painted with identical angled bands, layer upon layer of lavender, turquoise, and rose, like waving banners, stripes in matching order, parallel, billowing in the wind, reaching up in a slanted salute to sun and sky, rain and stars. Who or what had painted those glorious striations, had tipped them and rippled them and set them flying above the rolling green? The journey. We drove through the valley, 1955, hot. The cool green Merced seemed light years away. Our folks asked each other what kind of crops those were growing row after row beside the road. We kids in the back seat lolled, flopped, sighed, rolled our eyes at their attempts to interest us. Who cares? The crops ran by the car, eyebrows raised, nudging us, enticing curiosity. We groaned. Beyond logic, full of self-righteous exasperation, we cried accusingly, "Are we there yet? Tain't fur and the road's good. We'll just take our time." Dad loved that quote. We didn't get it. A joke? Mommy started singing. Daddy harmonized. Then, one by one, we calmed down, kicked back, joined in, wondered secretly what crops those were, running like men on green stilts by the car. Or those.
Charles Mariano has come today, but we're going to have Nancy Bea reading his poetry, and because he likes to listen.
Charles is from Sacramento, but he was born and raised in Merced, so he's very familiar with this part of the valley. His first poem is entitled Father's Day. It's strange how every year, like clockwork, I come to this blank page to remember my father. Strange, because he never really left. Every year I set aside a quiet moment for us, only us. More than 30 years ago, still hurts. Wish it could have been different. I know you're not coming back, I yelled angrily into the phone. Refused to go to the airport. No goodbye. Nothing. Should have gone. Should have hugged you, told you I loved you, held tight. Stupid, stupid son. When they called to tell me, walled myself away for months. Every raw, agonizing cry killed me, just killed me. Until I healed, or thought I did. You were everything, Daddy, all mine, everything. Never should have left, never. Every year, my father. His second poem is Where Old Tractors Go to Die. Brides in La Grande. Driving down Plainsburg Road, just off the 99, on an overcast early eve, miles and miles of orchards, fields. From a distance, could make out shapes, long lines of something, ghostly silhouettes. In the middle of nowhere, I stopped for a better view and stared at rows and rows of old tractors lined up solemnly, tires flat, treads broken, rusted. A once mighty army, chugging, clanking loudly, silenced, brought to a standstill. No more ground to cultivate, a final resting place. Just before the sun sank into an ominous, dusky haze, I thought about all the old farmers, gone now, on these great machines who bled, sacrificed, worked the land under that brutal Central Valley sun, side by side with my father. Thank you.
Cold water on hot concrete, a remembrance of Stockton. The fierce yellow bee of the sun turned nasty about mid-May, stinging us all day into tossing feverish sleep. I remember the sweet smell of water from the garden hose splashed on the hot concrete of the drive. We were trying to fill the small polyvinyl pool, colorful fish emblazoned on its bottom. Our small hands careless of where the water went so long as we could plunge into cool and wet before the too soon stagnant and warm. If the sun could gift me twice with persons no longer touched by its rays, I would ask for my father and grandmother to sit on the stoop in the hot evening, slicing watermelon into big, sweet smiles. Cool grass itchy under our bare legs, the stars brilliant as ice above us. A quiet shushing of someone's sprinkler next door, and that wondrous smell of cold water on hot concrete. And his next poem is Sparklers on the 4th. Our patriot parrot, Jose, could see very well, thank you, but was never sure why we rushed out into Stockton's darkness. He did know how to squawk himself scarce behind a curtain once the action began to light up a mosquito-laden night, with long, oily black ashes rising off the concrete walk, curling into paper worms, then the ordnance of pop bottle crackers pounding the tops of walnut trees with rockets' red glare. We'd pin old Whistling Pete to our portrail, cover our ears as he screamed, spit golden flashes, then spun to a stop. Our faces flashlight lit, we watched in wonder as the older child lit the big bubba we'd all been waiting for. The cardboard tube topped with a rocket's nose, planted on its stick of bamboo, the one that cost as much as all the rest, with lightning bolts drawn down its side. More often than not, it was a dud. But once, one rose to the height of the house, showering our lawn in glitters of emerald light. Finally, those flat boxes of sparklers appeared and the punks lit. Ecstatic children handed sparklers of their own. Some stood in place, swinging their arms in magnesium circles. Others created figure eights. But I took mine and ran with it, never stood still. Ever the child who danced in darkness, trailing firefalls of silver light. Our next reader will be Linda Sawyer, and she is from Waterford.
Looking through photographs, this is for my father. I gather petals in my hands and think of him, happiest in his worn blue shirt, tending his windswept garden. We used to talk about sow-bugs tumbling in crabgrass, inchworms measuring undergrowth, the beauty of peaches in summer dress. We pinched faded blossoms, hummed the Beatles tune. Will you still need me? Will you still need me? In a photograph, his hands wrap around his knees as we sit side by side on an old wicker bench. I glance and listen to his comfort and wisdom, his generous but tired heart beating beside me. How could I have missed it? He without a cushion for his aging bones. I refer to Lena. Lena is my husband Tom's grandmother. The dinner bell. Years ago, when there was a farmhouse, there was a garden and a dinner bell near the kitchen door. Lena rang the bell at the crack of dawn to wake farmhands in the bunkhouse and serve up bacon, pancakes, juice, and eggs, and her fresh boysenberry jam. The bell rang again, clean and clear through the trees, as a call to the midday meal. Every noon but Sunday, Lena spread out 2 meats, 3 casseroles, 4 salads, fresh rolls, and cobbler or brown cake with caramel frosting. After many years of abandonment, the wood that held the bell rotted and fell in the space by the orange grove near the kitchen under the pomegranate tree. The place where vines grew wild around the bell became tangled like a bundle of beads in a forgotten box. One day, a Japanese visitor saw the bell hidden where it dropped and asked if he could take it home to set atop a steeple at his church. It would become a call to worship, he said, in sun, sleet, or snow. Letters flew across the ocean, arrangements were made, and today the bell that called them into meals sings somewhere in Hokkaido.
Jim Schumann will read his poem, The Wooden Hammer, a poem in 3 voices.
You're going to have to imagine with me those 3 voices a little bit. I'm not sure I can make too much of a distinction between them. This actually started as a workshop poem. I don't know how many of you do that or not, but some of the ones I like better I work on again afterwards. If I think it was a total dud, I just file them away at number 13. But I kind of like this one, so I worked on it some more. Let's see what you think. Oh, that. Now that's an interesting thing. I found it in a box of junk at the auction. No, maybe it was in the nail cake I brought home after the sale. Anyways, I can't even remember when fellers used them hammers, because they was just for specialty work, driving them pegs into the beams to hold them together. But it does look kind of pretty hanging on the wall. You can see it's had lots of use all right. After Grandpa passed away, I helped clean things up in the shop and barn, and there was a lot of stuff that no one wanted. So I kind of put things together in crates and boxes. Maybe they matched somehow, or seemed to me like. And I took some of them to auctions, and there was one crate I especially remember. It had one of them wooden hammer things in it, pretty beat up, but still had kind of a weather-worn beauty to it. Almost kept it. Sort of wish I had now. When we was putting up the barn, yeah, that big one, you know, there wasn't nobody could peg them mortise and tin beams like old Mr. Morton. I watched him close as I could. Pretty soon I seen it was in the way he swung his hammer. So one day I up and asked him where he got that hammer. Son, he said, real solemn-like, you gotta make one for yourself that's right for you. Get you the hardest burl you can find, hack it to the shape you like, cure it long and good, and put a solid oak handle in it. It'll last you a lifetime. So that's what I've done.
I love the variety of work that we get in our magazine, although it's all about Central California in a sense, and yet it just encompasses so much and so many memories. I love my magazine. My magazine. Taylor Graham usually comes to our meetings, and she intended to until just a few days ago. So since she can't be here, Nancy Mayer will read for her.
Taylor's poem is entitled Behind the New Development. An old dog knows every inch of path that cuts down from the oak hill to the verge of creek. He holds a lifetime of scent trails in his head, woven like spider silk, a web so complex it maps his world. He trots as if lost in reminiscence of old trails along a vacant fringe of woods, past a new for sale sign. In a dog's short life, will this last bit of wild be manicured lawn with a split-level house? The dog stops abruptly, stands as if listening to what the live oaks say without a breeze. He gazes, sniffs as if recalling every memory that is nature's bedrock of the land's tenacious growth. He tests the wind. Scent, an old dog's elixir, but those familiar fragrances are changing. The creekside's up for sale. The dog resumes his path.
And from Cupertino, Again, we have our wonderful Pat Bustamante, who makes this trip so regularly and cheerfully. She's always a great addition. And she's a little injured right now, tripping over her cat, hurt her back.
Oh, thank you, Cleo. Yes, I would have stepped on his head, but that was not a good thing. So instead I fell over and cracked a vertebrae, but I'm recovering. That was in July. The one I'm going to read about this house that my grandmother owned, there's a twin to it on Pauline Avenue in Modesto. And that was his older brother, Jeremiah Mariner's house. And every time I go by, I say hello to the ghost of the family there. They're long gone. But the house is still there, and it did come in pieces on a railroad train, which is interesting. The summer room. Montgomery Ward had sold these houses pieced out bit by bit. In 1911, a two-story was shipped by railroad. It came to be assembled for my ranch in Idaho, France. It had a special edition that bore our family stamp. 3 granddaughters, produced by his youngest son, would sleep on cots in a screened-in porch, a second-story room. After all, the whispery giggles were hushed by a drowsy moon. Dawn was splendor. We owned the east horizon up above the treetops, made for easy on-time rising to get that bell ringer of all meals, a rancher's breakfast. Makes you feel you could milk 100 cows. Eggs collected yesterday, plus are not only being allowed, but expected to sip at grown-ups' coffee. Visiting over far too soon. We children reluctant to relinquish that best view summer room.
This is a nature poem that's maybe a little different than the regular ones. Scrub Jay. The scrub jay stays and stares. It must know it annoys me, takes my attention from my gathering of fruit, plums from my own tree. The jay screams as he does every year, and again I try to reason. It is my tree after all. His beak opens for another cat call, head bobs and he stares and shrieks. I become a mockingbird and mock him away, screeching more loudly than he. But now the plums must remain on the tree, for with my tiny claws I cannot pick them, and I can't open the screen door. Foolish to let my emotions transform me, so now until I can morph back into myself, I must wait, all the time wary of Jay's return. And, oh yes, the cat. I had such fun writing that one. Our next poet is Jennifer Legier, and we are always honored again to have her.
Thank you so much. I'm always delighted to come here. I'm originally from Escalon. I think I've lived in pretty much every town up and down Highway 99, from Lodi all the way to Turlock. I currently live in Marina, which is just north of Monterey. Summer Garden Ballet. One fat robin pirouettes to earth, pecks a marigold cluster. Late geraniums point in stew beside red gladiola. A hummingbird lusts among swollen lilies, feasts upon freckled foxgloves, its blood sugar peaking. Already rude jays quarrel and call from mossy elms, beaks jabbing the reflected masks in unsuspecting car mirrors. Gophers perforate ragged lawn as watchful hawks wheel. A prim hydrangea shimmies indecently toward blatant sun. Wearing green tights, untransformed princes with golden eyes leap from succulent stars. And the second one is Summer Gazelle. Sear season, Rainless hillsides parch themselves gold. Love runs out of juice, nights too warm for contact with skin. Nasturtiums and marigolds ignite sedate gardens, share pyrotechnics with jewel-headed hummingbirds, loud, boastful jays. A mist malaise rises from the estuary, a haunting white scrim. Invisible breakers humble what is left of now empty beach. Deep inside oak-strewn canyons, boneless garter snakes waterfall their way across browning scrub, adobe-red trails. I hunger for secret streams, pools of sorrel, redwoods far from what scorches, mammoth limbs stirred by cool wind. At dusk, my barbecue reddens. Dinner sizzles and reeks. I sip wine on the patio. A hunting hawk screams.
When I put the book together, I noticed that we had a lot of jays in the poems. They're a part of the area. Teresa Leslie will be read by Linda Prather, and also she will read Lee Collins' poem.
Together by Teresa M. Leslie. Watching sprinklers shower the lawn, we stand in the warmth of the fading sun. Silent, I know without asking, he, like me, remember when our children giggled and shouted, skipping through the misty arches. He takes my hand. We turn to face each other, speak in unison, then laugh, comfortable with the smiles and heartaches entwined throughout our lives. Shooting Star by Teresa M. Leslie. Across the night sky, our lives together, you blazed, dissolved like a shooting star into darkness. Now a precious memory eternally engraved on our heavy hearts. Moonlit Playground by Lee Collins. In this playground, on a still midnight, moonlight glides down slippery metal on a cold silvery slide as faded ponies open wide their wild painted eyes. And from a sandbox, remembrance rises. Of childhood fun on hung swing seats that now hold dark winds to lift and turn like silent enchanted bats' wings. Here my afternoon child's fire burned where there is now only a far lone moon. Swinging through space, I once would rise forward and back and then again, higher and higher, legs pumping up and down into a blue-hued sky, as if I felt I could really fly.
Jennifer Fenn will be our next reader, and she is another of our long-distance poets, so we're always so excited to have her here.
Thank you. I'm a native of Fresno. Ready for a raindrop. The metal sculpture crane stands at the downtown fountain, mouth open skyward all summer long. Through dusty, three-digit valley weeks, it waits to catch a single raindrop to wet its long, stiff throat. A soft breeze blows through Fresno, bluing the hazy sky for Labor Day. In the fleeting cool, the crane still stands, neck stretched, ready for a raindrop. The cricket's song. Our parents sat beside me and my little sister on our beds for nighttime prayers. Our mother got up to open the windows, letting in the cool night air of summer. The clear sound of crickets singing through our valley filled our young ears. Like the beat of a heart, the cricket's 1-2, 1-2 rhythm eased us into our pillows. We never thought their song would end, that our father would have a massive stroke that fall and live at the hospital for months with our mother at his side. No crickets would sing us to sleep until the next summer, when our mother brought our paralyzed father home for good, in time for the return of the crickets.
Former Modesto poet laureate and Bearder will read his poem.
Bloom. Pain cannot forget. What is metaphor, if not a way of speaking of things that are unspeakable? Images splashed with water. A sea, a storm, a squall. Sounds that drown out everything, except the one thing.
And in keeping with that kind of concise poetry, we have Michael Meinhof.
The Buddhist poet swallows space between thoughts, says little, and when a symphony inside him sings, he smiles.
Thank you, Michael. And now Jim Schumann will read poems by, I got one of them backwards, I think, by Robert Cooperman, Charles Rammelkamp, and Jackie Joyce.
Robert Cooperman's poem is called Surgeon's Hands. My wife, a surgeon's daughter, made a point of shaking hands with the man who will replace my bone-on-bone hip with metal and ceramic. Afterwards, Beth proclaimed, he's got good surgeon's hands, long as a basketball player's and strong as a pianist, but gentle, she analyzed, as if at a blind wine tasting. I remember Beth's father's hands, though I never saw him operate, but deft as a dragonfly at darning socks, gentle as a barber at pruning his fruit tree and testing peaches for ripeness. Handing one each to Beth and me, the succulents dripping down our chins, he'd smile that he'd made us happy without hurting us first. This surgeon promises, you'll climb a 14er with me once you're healed. Not the gift of a peach from a man I loved, but it'll do. Charles Rammelkamp's poem is called Seafood Associates. When I saw this poem, I thought, what a strange juxtaposition of words. But you'll understand when you hear it. In the supermarket, the ethereal overhead voice suggests consulting the seafood associates for help with preparing fish. How much to buy, how to serve it. Seafood associates? Those guys in the stained white aprons and hats? Well, why not? These days, everybody has an inflated title. I am an information technology specialist in the data center where I work, writing guidelines for software programs. A certified expert, even if I have trouble connecting a printer to a PC. I wonder if Seafood Associates includes areas of expertise such as cod consultants, shellfish specialists. Try saying that 10 times really fast. I call myself a poet. Jackie Joyce writes, no apologies. I come from a poetic lineage of writers. I'm no Jeffers, Soroyan, or Steinbeck, but feminine from an ancient bloodline I'm extracting data from San Joaquin Valley, grids, and pushing feminist zines and perspectives. I'm a lyrical street pharmacist pushing grams of writing, armed with a pen and camera, peeling back the pages of history. I'm peeling pages thick like the skin of pomegranates, which hold many seeds of information. I'm piecing together the puzzle of my pioneer folks, California, Georgia, Kentucky, Louisiana, Texas. History tied together. My blood boils when the 5 freeway transitions to the 99. I start thinking about the generations of black migrant farm workers in the fields in between vines, avoiding wasp hives, picking grapes, picking fruits, working on farms, hauling hay, picking cotton. Rarely mentioned in California history pages.
Jackie Joyce is new to us, but I've been in communication with so many people by email. And she is from Long Beach, California. She is coming out soon with a book of poetry and prose based loosely on the San Joaquin Valley, entitled Green Grapes, Black Hands. And I'm really looking forward to that book when it comes out. I think she's a really interesting writer. Is Arlene Bea? Arlene Rhea Bea in here? For my best friend. I want to take the bits of you that I love and press them like flowers between the pages of one of my Nicholas Sparks novels. And I want to take all those scraps you dislike so much about yourself and display them on my refrigerator next to our high school graduation picture to show you I'm proud of the person you are and the person you are becoming. But most of all, I want to spin you like a plastic globe and drag my finger till it stops to discover the pieces of you that you've yet to reveal to anyone else. I'll wrap them in lavender linens and place them in a box full of our childhood memories that I've kept tucked away safely under my bed frame. Just so you know there's someone that's capable of living the bits you thought were unlovable. And Linda Prather will read 2 poems about Dry Creek.
I'm going to start with page 40 instead of 39, because it's in the morning, and then the next one is in the evening, so it seems to work better. Dry Creek. What's in a color? Light flickers and flashes on the water in the creek. Blue dragonfly perched on a dry leaf of fading sienna by the banks in the golden straw. And on the elderberry, same color, blue, gorgeous in the light of morning, and in the clarity from last night's surprise rain. And here I am again, with another day closer to July, finally to have my beloved summer. Already rust color of dry weeds, but the blackberry are just coming on, food for wanderers and wild things. Lovely cool breeze, white butterfly floating among the brambles. The day opens out into the wide floodplain, sun high and strong. Tiny trumpet flowers with buttercream centers trail and keep low all over this flat land. Some striped pink, like peppermints. The little blossoms embellish, green leaf and crawling vine woven into the field's tablecloth. A few orange poppies rise above it all, creating centerpieces for the Dry Creek table. Again, blue, nothing but, in a sky swept clean. No clouds to cloud our thoughts, no influence there, no shapes to decipher, just blue. Dry Creek floodplain, August 12th, 2011. On the hill, Lord of the dirt and Lord of the straw and Lord of the red ant, do you see me? Do you hear me when I call? I think so. The ant, what does he know, running as he does to and fro over the long summer day? Dry, grass like mismatched matchsticks, but amaryllis have popped up behind me at the old McClure place. Good to see color and blossom, though sunflowers are blooming also along the fence. And ants want flesh. It's convenient enough, sitting as I am on the ground, fool as I am on the hill. Golden horizontal bands low in the aqua sky. I like watching the sun down one more time from this view. Shadowing upon the oaks, darkness coming on below, claiming the woods along the creek. I never tire of this scene. Full moon will be up in a while, snatching some of the black and casting deeper shadows.
Bill Peck is not here. Waterworks. Water rushing from canal gates, water flowing around dark trees. Water, excuse me. Water rising near top of levees. We irrigate our peach orchard. I muse about Tri-Valley lugs ready in the barn for later in summer, when we will carry them out of hiding so we can pick clings. Eat them until juice runs down our chins as we all laugh, piling scores more in containers to haul to the cannery with the Farm Mall H, replacing our old Alice chambers, sitting idle after decades of work. Like we will sit soon over bacon, eggs, and hotcakes at a long table under the leaves as the sun rises. Soon we will pass the coffee pot around and round. Again, we all laugh, review our progress, plan for more. The fig tree. I remember shelter from the fig tree, a green fortress where I often crept after a scolding or even a spanking. I remember tears in his depth. I'm sorry. I am not sure about this line. I remember tears in his dappled light until he readied me to leave summer shade and rejoin my family at our old ranch on Oakdale Road. Secure, I knew I could always return to his leafy arms. Now, wandering this gray world of skyscrapers, I sometimes yearn for the refuge of my fig tree back in the valley. And Roberta will read the last two poems by Patricia William Jones.
Who knew soul windows were adjustable? This morning the surgeon drew out the clouds, tossed them in a pot with all the others. He slipped a plastic disc into the pocket space left behind and patted my face. I stared up at the blue figures clustered together around my bed, suddenly bright and clear, not merely perceptible. On my long exhale of relief, the shadowy fear dragon tamped down his hot garlic breath, skulked back to his cave. And the last one, summary of summer. On the last day of May, temperatures leap out at spring. Children catapult through school doors as if exploding, race into the uncharted land of summer. By the end of August, each one's story captures the taste and smells of that childhood. Their compositions are scribbled in sweat and seawater, a few tears mixed with riotous laughter, scraped knees, maybe fireflies or fireworks or campfires. Not quite ready for autumn or school, they wait at bus stops in stiff new clothes, still filled and bursting with hot weather dreams.
I think that's such a good ending for our summer book and just goes right toward our autumn book. So I want everybody to get poems in for autumn. And we will take a break and you can have some refreshments. wander around and just get comfortable, and we'll come back and have an open mind, and I'll give you 10 minutes. Okay, so eat fast, drink fast, talk fast.